In this talk, we present our paper HOIST former, handheld objects identification, segmentation, and tracking in the wild. Given a sequence of frames from a video, the goal of this work is to identify the objects that are held by hand. And for each such handheld object, we need to generate a segmentation mask. In addition to that, we also need to specify a unique instance ID for each handheld object to facilitate tracking. There are two important conditions, however. First, each handheld object should have a unique instance ID even if the object is invisible in certain frames or it is non-held in some frames. Second, if the object is not handheld in certain frames, we do not segment or track the object in such frames. Handheld object segmentation and tracking is an important problem with numerous applications. It helps us to understand human interactions since humans primarily use their hands to interact with their surroundings. It can also help us in skill evaluation tasks such as monitoring surgery. Segmenting and tracking handheld objects is challenging for several reasons. First, identifying whether an object is handheld is challenging since a 2D overlap between hand and object does not guarantee handheld status. Second, even if we can identify handheld objects, segmenting them is challenging due to severe occlusions. Third, tracking is hard since handheld status changes continuously. An object can be held at one point, let go, and held again later. Throughout this, the object should have a unique instance ID, even if there are multiple instances of similar objects. Our problem setting shares some similarities with video instance segmentation, but there are several key differences. First, in video instance segmentation we assume the objects come from a fixed and predefined class. Whereas, we deal with open-world settings, we want to segment and track handheld objects regardless of their category. Second, in video instance segmentation, the objects are segmented and tracked throughout the video as long as they are visible. However, in our case, we segment and track objects only in the frames objects are handheld. Our work has two main contributions. First, we develop a novel transformer-based architecture to jointly identify, segment, and track handheld objects. Second, we develop a large-scale in-the-wild dataset that can be used to train methods for segmenting and tracking handheld objects. Our method, called HOIST former, is a transformer-based architecture. It takes a sequence of video frames as inputs and outputs spatiotemporal masks for hands and handheld objects. The core engine behind the HOIST former is a novel hand-object transformer decoder that iteratively localizes hands and corresponding handheld objects by iteratively pooling information between hand and object features. We propose a dataset, called HOIST. Our dataset has 4,200 unconstrained videos. We annotate more than 84,000 frames with bounding boxes, segmentation masks, and tracking IDs for handheld objects. Here are some sample frames from the HOIST dataset. The dataset contains videos with different viewpoints and lighting conditions, varying sizes for handheld objects, and is diverse. We conduct experiments and measure the performance using the video average precision metric. We use the HOIST dataset and two other public datasets to conduct experiments. We compare several methods, including mask propagation methods, multiple object tracking methods, and end-to-end trainable methods. Here are some qualitative results from our method. Our method can identify, segment, and track diverse handheld objects. Of course, there are failure cases. Failure cases mainly arise when the segmentation is imperfect for small objects or when wrong instance IDs are assigned for tracking. To summarize, we contribute a transformer-based method and a large-scale dataset to tackle segmenting and tracking handheld objects in videos.